This is a 2021 Giant TCR carbon fiber frame bicycle. In this video I'm going to mount it to the 2020 Wahoo Kickr core before it was updated. The two of them are incompatible, as is the rear triangle, which was changed in 2021 by a number of manufacturers on a large number of models of their bicycles. The rear mounting geometry made it incompatible with the Kickr core. Wahoo responded to this by developing a new set of adapters that eliminate this incompatibility issue. Or so they think. Houston, we have a problem because the adapters are wrong by 4 millimeters. In this video I'll show you the geometry and I will show you a solution. Very simply, half of the old adapters and half of the new adapters will combine to make it a proper fit. So let's take a look at what a proper fit looks like. This isn't a wheel made by Giant, this is a Hunt wheel that I have. Nevertheless, this is how it's mounted when it's mounted flawlessly. The end of the axle is flush with the mounting plate. There's a little groove there, but this is how flush fit looks like. If I start rotating the axle, as in removing the axle from the frame, you can see this is what happens. If the adapters are wrong, the incompatibility means that the axle is not fully threaded in because the frame is spread apart unnecessarily. That causes two problems. One, the bearing surface of the axle is only partially in the frame. It's not ideal. Problem two, the frame is being pried apart by the wrong adapter set. That's also a problem, as well as the cassette set is not going to be lined up with the vertically with the derailleur. Okay, so the chain will have a 4 millimeter zig in it, an unnecessary source of friction. Actually, it's a major problem with shifting with the wrong adapter on the trainer. So let's take out the axle and I'll show you what's involved in terms of adapters. These are the 4 adapters the Kickr core originally came with. The updated adapters are in a package that Wahoo supplied sometime this year. Out of the 4 original, 2 of them are made for through axle mounting. Obviously the 12mm axle just doesn't fit through the hole. Oh yeah, the 12mm-ness of this axle is its diameter. That's measured at the thicker part of the axle. This is important because the middle is thinner here. So you can measure this 12mm with a vernier caliper like so. There, 12mm, 11.5, something like that. So nominally this is a 12mm diameter. So this is the old set and they look like this. One of them is hollow and the other one is looking like this for a 142mm axle length and a 148mm axle length. This is a reversible adapter. The updated set looks like this. 2 of the adapters are threaded, not for this bicycle model, so I'm just gonna leave it there. You can see the cut thread on it, and these are looking like this. This one here is supposed to be replacing this one and seemingly have the same length. However, you can see that it's stepped down here. There's a chamfer and the smaller diameter. This will pry the bicycle frame 5mm apart because it doesn't slide on the internal part of the internal spindle of the trainer. I'm going to show you how this looks like. So the new fit will be produced, the perfect fit will be produced by the old adapter and this other new adapter, which is this is replacing this one. I'll show you why this part in the middle is just made thinner That's the only change. They have the same length, same diameter, and of course the new one is not reversible. Okay, so that's the change they made. They wanted to get this shoulder here on this raised part further away, like far enough away. This shoulder now is far enough away from this serrated end, and I'll show you the significance of that is. So this is the correct shape for the left side, where the non-cassette side on the trainer, and this is the one that they intended for the cassette side but doesn't work, so you're gonna need the old one. Okay, let me show you this on the bicycle. If I take the wheel out of the frame, I'll show you how the surfaces on the frame interact with the adapters. The axle has been removed, so taking out the wheel is just going to take seconds here. With the wheel out of the way, it's easy to explain that not only the axle is thinner in the middle and only 12 millimeters here at the end in diameter, but also it's not 142 millimeters long. A 142 millimeter measurement is from the inside of the frame here to the inside of the frame there, or on the wheel with no cassette and no brake, from the end of this spacer to the end of the other spacer on the other side. I'll show you very simply. This measurement can be taken with a vernier caliper when the brake and the cassette set are not in the way. Very simply clamp the wheel and take a reading on the caliper. When the measurement is locked in, just roughly, it is 142 millimeters or so, or nominally. It's pretty close to 142.0. So the axle is longer. The axle is longer by the thickness of this metal here. The axle goes through, because the axle's length measurement starts on the underside of this flange, plus the axle goes through 8.5 millimeters of frame thickness here that is threaded. So that thread engagement plus the thickness of the frame here make the axle longer. The axle is not 142 millimeters. So if you measured the axle and guessed that you need the 148 millimeter spacer, which is the reversible one, of course, that would be a wrong guess. There, so it's 148 is a number on it. So I'm threading the axle through the 8.5 millimeter thread engagement, and where it drops out, it has traveled 8.5 millimeters out. Plus the thickness of this, again, make the axle longer than 142 millimeters. Now, come on in closer, let's take a look at this frame geometry here. How the frame end here, which is chipped because I fitted the frame with the wrong adapter and I chipped the paint. So this is the wrong adapter here. It looks like there's a recess here in the frame where this adapter could fit. On the adapter there is a step here machined into it. That look like this step, the length of this step here is the same as the depth of this recess, but that is looking like it's a match, but it's not. The axle in this position can't go through from the outside. Of course it does. The axle goes through with the adapter being out of place, but the adapter doesn't fit in that space. The adapter needs to be hovering here, about a millimeter or so away from the surface here where it should be, and that's because the frame again is thicker where the paint is chipped here. Okay, and this shoulder all around the adapter lies directly against that chipped surface, so it looks like this. It's a millimeter away or 1.5 millimeters away from being correct. You can see this gap there. This gap is not noticeable if you just throw the adapter in place, and if you mount everything like so, it's not going to be immediately noticeable. When the adapter is lining up on the axle, you can see there is a gap there, about 1.5 millimeters of being wrong, and it hits the frame. You can see it from above there where the paint is chipped. Okay, I hope this geometry makes sense here. So this misfit is the reason for the incompatibility between the adapter and the frame. The raised flange here hits the frame there and is not allowing the adapter to sit properly in the frame another 1.5 millimeters deeper. So you can see this V-gap or tapering gap, and it follows all around, as well as there is showing up as a black line here at the bottom of the picture. Here there is a gap there as well that shouldn't be there, so this needs to be seated properly. I'll show you how the redesigned adapter solves this problem, so this shape is not going to be an issue with it. On the other side, the original adapter fits as follows perfectly. There's a step in it. The step fits into this shallow recess here created within this derailleur hanger, so this old adapter fits perfectly fine right there where it should be. It's seated properly, never mind the chip in the paint. That's from taking it in and out of the trainer multiple times. So this is how the fit looks like, and it's perfect. Now let's change the adapters to the updated ones, which is again this one, and it's got a directional arrow on it there, the arrow facing to the center of the bicycle, and this is how the updated right side adapter should look like, or should be oriented there, with the serrated surface ending up there. So looks like the updated right side adapter here at the derailleur hanger fits perfectly into the recess. So far so good. However, what's invisible is only going to be shown or meaningfully when this adapter is out of this place and how it interacts with this ring here, where it should slide on without an issue, just like so. This is the old adapter. It should fit like so and should stick out from the last sprocket exactly this much. So that's not going to happen with the new adapter. So it looks like this new spacer is a perfect fit here, but it's not. Its shape is problematic, and how it interacts with the trainer itself I'll show you. On the other side, however, the problem is fixed. The adapter fits exactly into the recess here, created inside the frame here, and of course this shoulder now is a mile away. Okay, say half an inch away, I don't know, 8 millimeters away from the frame, so nothing is chipping the paint. This is perfectly well seated, is in place, and is in fully good contact with the frame spar here, this thinner section. Okay, so it's perfect here. These are the two axle adapters for the right side here with the cassette set. This is the old one, this is the one you want to use. It just simply slides in place like so, fits easily. The problem with the new one is this shoulder here that doesn't let it slide all the way in there. It just barely sits there. The new spacer looks like this, and it sticks out from the last sprocket here, sticks out this much, whereas the old one sticks out a lot less, only that much. You think it's gonna be a problem for misaligning the derailleur by about 5 millimeters, the distance between the two of them. It is going to be a problem. So let me show you how everything fits together with the old spacer and on one side and the new spacer on the other side, which is here. I'm gonna put it in here as indicated by the arrow, like so, and simply put the bicycle on it, push the axle through. So with the correct combination of adapters, the updated one on the left side, the old one on the right side, mounting the bicycle takes just seconds. I'm not going to bother with the chain. I'm just going to put this whole thing in place, like so. It's just sitting on the adapters, and push the axle through, find the thread on the other side, and clamp it in, like so. I can apply confidently some clamping force on it because there isn't a pinch point there. That one is the old spacer, everything works. Let's take a look at the axle stick out at this end, and alas, the axle end is flush perfectly with the threaded mounting ring or mounting plate on the outside. Perfect, as it should. Now, I'm going to change this setup and make it wrong. I'm going to use the new adapter on this side. We know that the old adapter on this side, this shape, just doesn't work. I'm not going to chip the paint any more than it is now. So I'm just gonna take out the axle, lift up the bike just enough to get the good spacer out or good adapter out, and put in this updated one, which fits wrong. It spreads the frame at this point. It spreads the frame out by 4 millimeters. Now the frame is flexible enough, it's not going to be noted just yet. Put the axle in. Because the surfaces are matching perfectly, I can apply some clamping force on it by hand, like so, and see what happens when we check out the axle. Yeah, where's the axle on this side? It's nowhere to be seen. In fact, it's 4 or 5 millimeters in too deep. It literally just, the end doesn't come out at all to be visible there. So it sits that much back inside the frame. So not only the loading of the axle is wrong, or the loading of the frame is wrong because there's less thread engagement, but also the chain is not in purposefully just because of this. The sprockets now don't line up with the derailleur below. There's a 4 millimeter zig this distance here, however far the end of the bolt is in the frame there. That's the distance by which the derailleur is not lined up with the sprockets above in each and every single gear. So that's gonna cause some major grief. No damage to the frame, but possibly damage or grief with shifting, because the chain should be perfectly lined up with the derailleur and the sprockets above in the cassette set in each gear precisely. So that's why that new adapter needs to be maybe not thrown out or taken out, and the old one put back in. That's when the bicycle fits perfectly. I put the old spacer back in the trainer. You can see this original gap there, the problem where it all starts, and the pinch point here where the shoulder on the adapter is prying the paint off the bicycle, and the old adapter on that side the axle's end is still 2-3 millimeters in from the end of the mounting plate there, or the threaded plate there, so it's not only provides less thread engagement there, also misaligned the derailleur and the cassette set again by the 3 millimeters, and it busts the paint on the frame. So did Wahoo fix the problem? Kinda they did, but it needs a little bit of TLC from you when you mount your bicycle on the Kickr